I started over like 415 pounds.
Wow.
Like, and that was not my heaviest because I started this, and like months into it, I never could find a scale that went up that far, for one thing. Most scales in doctor's office, with the things that you move and put on the numbers, go up to 400 max.
Have you ever heard the phrase becoming the best version of yourself? Yeah, me too. But what does that even mean, and how do we become that person? I'm here to help you navigate through those questions and come up with actionable steps in order for you to live your best life. We've got to discover what we want. We've got to figure out a plan on how to get there, and then we have to go. We can't just sit and wait any longer. Life won't wait on us. So come join me on this constant journey to become the best version of yourself and to find your best you. I'll see you on the other side. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Best You. I got the one and only Jacob Fasig with me here today. I'm super stoked to have him. I've been following him for a number of months now, going through his story and everything that he's going through, and it's been awesome. And the way I want to start with you is to rewind, probably how you tell your story a lot, is back to that night in 2009. What was going through your head when you said that you thought realized that it dawned on you that you were killing yourself with food? Yeah. So what kind of was the thought process? Why that night? What sparked it on? And what was the motivation going forward?
Yeah, I don't know that it had like a spark or anything. I just remember driving home and I was at a stoplight, and like the realization just came upon me, like things have to change. Like I have to be different. And in 2009, like I had two young kids at home. I don't know that had anything to do with it necessarily, but maybe some of it initially, but I don't think that's a reason for like long-term results either. Right. So there's more to talk about there if you wanted to, but yeah, I don't know. It just came over me, and I was at a stoplight, and all of a sudden I was like, holy crap! Like you were literally killing yourself. I don't remember if I was even eating anything at that point, but I was eating myself to death. Like I couldn't keep up. Like my job is not a physical job, but it involves constantly moving and constantly being places and running around. And so it was after a long day it was a Wednesday night, I know, because it was a 12, 14-hour work day. And I was exhausted. And I don't know if the exhaustion just played into the point of me going, I have something to deal with, like something to come out of instead of a lot of noise around, like, because a lot of times when we're just going 90 miles a minute, like there's, you're focused on whatever you're doing. Oh yeah. You're not focused on your life. You're not focused on whatever things you need to deal with or whatever's like kind of being brought up within you to deal with. And that night, I guess I was just at the right time to do it.
Right stop point to let the realization kind of kick in.
Oh yeah, and it hit hard. Yeah, and I realized that things needed to be different, or just prepare the family for me not being around.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what was, after that realization, what was step number one?
Talking about it a little bit. I think I started with my friends instead of my wife. Like it's just easier. Yeah. Because then I had a small group that I met with every week, and so like we would get together for coffee or whatever, and I remember talking to them. I was like, I think I need to get like healthy. Like I think I need to make some changes.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, that'd be a great idea for you. I was like, all right, great. Why couldn't you say something earlier? But so then I started telling people, and I started widening that circle of people who I'd allowed to know that I was struggling with food and struggling with just not being the best me that I could be.
What do you think communicating your goal or your vision or whatever you want to call it, what do you think communicating that with other people did for you, and how did that help you to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. One, it added a layer of accountability that was never there before.
Okay.
Because our natural assumption is that if we don't know that someone cares about something, we assume they don't care about it.
Yeah.
And so if I have a friend that's eating McDonald's every day for lunch, I assume they don't care. My job is not to police them or be their parent, but if they come to me and say, hey, can you help me watch what I'm eating? Then when you post a picture of something you're eating, then I'm going to comment on it.
Right.
And be like, you're better than that. But for me, it was telling people was riding, kind of widening that accountability of people around me, so that if I was making a food choice, I knew that there were people with eyes and ears that were around me that might go,
wag your finger at that.
Yeah, you sure you doing that?
Yeah.
And that was helpful to me, and so there was that, and then the second thing is, besides accountability, it also just frees you from keeping something internal, because like so much stuff we keep inside of us is going to blow up at some point.
Yeah.
And so the more of that we can kind of diffuse and relinquish out of our bodies, then the easier it is to kind of keep moving forward.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you communicated the goal with everybody. You felt like you had accountability. You got it out.
Yeah.
What next? Was the fitness thing, or was it changing your eating habits? Or
yeah. I don't know that I even had any goals.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
just
real
the
goals.
idea of getting healthy.
Yeah, and so like I knew I needed to make changes, and so there were a couple of things I started doing. One was started at that point. I started cycling, and so I would ride a bike, and I got into road cycling, and so then along that way I would set goals. Like I want to do a metric century, and then I want to do a century ride, like all those things. And so you'd start, which a metric century is like 60 to 65 miles.
Okay.
And then a full century ride is a 100-mile ride. Like in one day, you just go and do the thing. And so you can set goals there. And so that was one of the things that came along with cycling, and also became a triathlon goal of competing in a triathlon. And then nutritionally, I found this lady at my church who worked for Vanderbilt, who was a nutritionist. Mm-hmm. And she heard about me just trying to make some changes, wanted to do things differently. She saw me riding my bike, and then she offered to help. And she goes, "Hey, I do this for a living. Yeah. Like I could help you." And I was like, "That's fantastic."
Yeah.
And so I started writing down everything that I was putting in my mouth, and making a food journal. And then I would give it to her every week or two. And then she would make notes, hand it back to me of changes I needed to make. And so that cycle went on for the next couple of years.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that one thing that speaking your goals, or at least what you want to happen out to other people, what can also do, it holds you accountable, but it also gets more people on your team and on your back. So she knew that or that you were going after something, and she wanted to support you. But if you hadn't have voiced it, then you would have had someone rally around you. So that's cool.
And with me, I battled, at that point I was really battling depression real hard. And so self-isolation was super easy and a default thing for me to do. And so to push myself to get it out there made that even better, because I found out there was more positive people around me that wanted me and wanted to help me get to where I wanted to be.
Right. Gotcha.
Which I never thought existed before, because I was a depressed, guy that was just no one cared.
So, and like every journey, no journey is always smooth sailing, going straight uphill and everything like that. I saw that in 2010, you had a little bit of a setback. You kind of went back to where you were. Tell me a little bit about that setback and what remotivated you towards the healthy goal.
Yeah, and so I had a great year, 18 months or whatever, strong, competed in triathlon, we're making ride goals, it was great. I dropped, I dropped a lot, over 100 pounds. And so I got
Where did you start?
I started over 415 pounds.
Wow.
And that was not my heaviest, because I started this, and months into it, I never could find a scale that went up that far, for one thing. Most scales in doctor's office, with the things that you move and put on the numbers, go up to 400 max.
Wow.
Most of them just go to 350. And so there was no way to ever weigh me. I'd go to the doctor before, and he'd stand on and go, "All right, move on, height." And we go, still 6'5", great. And so I got sick with an ear infection or something. And so I walked into this Vanderbilt walk-in clinic, and they had a scale that would I don't know, go to infinity. I don't know. It didn't say it had a load on it, you know. And so I found out at that point I was 415 pounds, and that was after a few months of making radical changes and feeling pretty good. And so they allowed me also, I asked about it, I was like, "So can I come and use this every once in a while now?" So I tracked a little bit better from that point on. But yeah, basically there was a huge job transition. Job became a really bad place to be in.
Okay.
It was bad. I was killing myself trying to be the best father, the best husband, the best worker, the best like healthy person.
Yeah.
Like I was going, full out trying to be the best in everything.
Okay.
Like I just wanted to be successful in everything, especially with younger kids. Like I just wanted to be a great dad and I wanted to be a great husband. You can't necessarily be even both of those at your best ability, you know, like, and not all the time. And so I was learning a lesson about priorities that I didn't know I was learning at that point. And so I started crashing and burning. I walked away from the job that I was in and fairly successful at and just like changed careers.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't want anything. I don't want any part of that. I don't want to do anything with it. I'm done. And so I walked out and then started working for a Christian music publishing company, and went from like answering phones to like the executive assistant, like within like a few weeks.
That's awesome.
It was hilarious, and I hated working 9 to 5.
Yeah,
like I just hated it, and I hated that, and so like food started creeping back in and bad choices, and so like my weight escalated. And I got back to where I was, I didn't quite go as heavy. I think I stayed under 400 at least.
Yeah. There you go.
Which,
some positive from the negative.
Yeah. But yeah, it was another like just terrible, depressive season again.
And did you just kind of have that same almost moment to yourself that, wow, this is happening again? Or
no, I noticed it was happening again, and I almost couldn't do anything about it in the season and space in which I was inhabiting. Like I felt trapped in it, and then I started making some job transitions. I started picking up some part-time work of something just I wanted to do out of love, out of a desire, and in that space over the next like year, I started healing from what had happened.
Yeah.
And so it took me a year of concerted effort just to heal internally from what I experienced when I crashed and burned.
Yeah. So one of the things that you said is that you learned a lesson in priorities that you hadn't even learned yet. What was that lesson?
Yeah. Well, I learned you can't do everything.
Okay.
And I knew that. Like I learned that real quick. But the idea of who I wanted to be and set priorities for, like, I realized that we all get the same amount of days.
Yeah.
Like, we get 24 hours every single day. Nobody gets more. Some people get less.
Yeah.
But not everybody gets more. And so within that 24 hours, you have to prioritize what's the most important thing to you. It's not that people ever don't have time to exercise.
Yeah.
Or don't have time to spend with their kids. Or don't have time to go on a date with their spouse. Like, it's never an issue of time. It's an issue of priorities.
Okay.
And so whatever you prioritize is what you're going to have time for.
Okay.
If you prioritize work over everything, then you're going to work a 12-hour day and go home happy.
Yeah.
But everything else is going to crash and burn.
So how does that daily practice of setting the priorities look like for you?
Yeah. Well, I schedule around certain things.
Yeah.
Like for me today, and getting back on the horse back then, I started just setting priorities. Like, I have to work out every day. Like, I have to, and so everything gets planned around workout and eating.
Yeah.
Like, for me,
hey.
which sounds ridiculous.
No, I feel like that if more people were like that, I feel like that's what it should be, because healthiness or having a healthy body is beneficial to you and everybody around you, and that's really the most important thing at the end of the day.
Sure, yeah. And this was not easy. Like, it wasn't like an overnight thing. This took me like years of practice.
No, nothing's overnight.
But like for me, every morning I start out with working out for a number of reasons. One, it's my top priority. Like, I want to move. I want to physically. I want to get stronger. I want to get I want to be able to go further. I want to do things that I never thought I could do before in my life. And so that's number one. But I do it first thing in the morning because it doesn't mess with anything else. I get home and my kids are waking up for school, and I can get them ready for school. That gives me family time. I can do it that early in the morning because any other time of the day, something can take its place. Am I a morning person? Heck no.
Right.
Like, do I love working out at 5 a.m.? Heck no. Like, I hate it. There's been a couple of mornings recently where I've gotten to work out at 6 a.m. and it is so much better than 5 a.m.
Okay.
Because that extra hour of sleep is magical.
Right.
But that doesn't work. Like, so today I was back up at 5, and so, but it's a priority. And so when I started working a food plan, and I was working with a guy named Jamie Free, I would literally set alarms on my phone.
Okay.
And so no matter where I was, it didn't matter what meeting I was in, it didn't matter anything. When my alarm went off to eat, like I would eat, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And so, still today, like I don't have to have alarms anymore, but I know exactly what time I'm eating and what I'm eating during that meal. So that I can get it all together every morning.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. I think it's awesome because I think so many people probably realize that health needs to be a bigger priority of their life, but don't actually take action on it. So for you to actually acknowledge it, realize it's there, and take action on it, and actually wake up at 5 a.m. even though it sucks to work out, that you actually do it because you realize how much it benefits you and probably benefits the people around you.
Yeah. And what I learned from that was if I can value me, if I can invest in me, health and food wise, internally, externally, everything, like mind, body, spirit, the whole thing. If that's on my top priority, then I can do everything else with much better success.
Gotcha.
I can be a better dad. I can be a better husband. I can be a better worker because I'm feeling great about who I am.
Yeah.
And because I feel good, I've been fueled. I'm eating the right food.
Right.
I've worked out, and so my body's at a different place than ever before. I can go further and longer than ever before, and so it helps in every single area of life.
Yeah.
But so many of us, we go, there's too many other things that are more important. I got to sick someone, or I got kids, or I just had a baby, and all this stuff. And my last change, like fast forwarding from the drought that I came into and coming out of, I was with that small group again, and we were talking about exercise, and this guy goes, "Man, I've been seeing a lot about this CrossFit thing."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Tell me about CrossFit. I don't know about CrossFit." And then I started, researching. I found there's a CrossFit box close to where I lived, and so I remember I was so scared to go in it. Like, it was super intense. I drove past it. My girls took ballet in the strip mall down. And so, I would drop them off and, drive past it. And I'd, look in. And, there's people sweating and spitting and cussing. I don't know what's happening in there.
Right.
But it looks like it's terrible.
Yeah.
And it looks like people are hurting themselves. And I don't know what's happening. And so I emailed the guy, one of the owners, and I said, "Hey, I'm interested in some information about CrossFit. I wanted somebody to hold my hand. I just wanted some security, some emotional security, and I didn't get any of it. And the guy was like, "I just stopped by. There's this guy named Bald. There's a bald guy. His name's Greg. Just stop by and talk to him. He'll get you hooked up." And so I was took another week or two, and I was like, I don't know. And so I finally came in there, and sure enough, this jacked up dude named Greg came. He was like, "Oh, hey, I heard you were coming. Yeah, we're finishing up things. I'll get to you if you have any questions."
Yeah.
And so class is ending. There's a huge mass of people waiting to go into class because it's in this space that's kind of too small for the people in it. And there's people, and they're barely have any clothes on. Most of them the guys are all topless, and they're sweating profusely. And I'm I feel like I'm gonna die if I stay around here. So I hid again, and left.
Oh my gosh!
It took me weeks.
So how long did it take you to step foot in there?
Another couple of weeks.
Okay.
So I in 2014, I started in June.
Was there something that pushed you to start, or did they?
I just finally sacked up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, and I was emailing the guy, the other owner, whose name's Matt at the time, and Matt was encouraging me "Hey, just want to check back in. How you doing? You want to come by and do a class?" And then I just started they had a month-long essentials class where you learned Olympic lifting, and you learned what goes on in class and eating and stuff like that. And so that launched this new thing in my life that completely changed me, but still for me nutritionally it was crap because a lot of skinny healthy people would say you can eat whatever you want as long as you're eating the right things, and to an overweight dude eating whatever I want as long as it's healthy doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean jack.
I can eat all kinds of steaks all day long, and it can not have butter or anything on it, but I'll eat them, I'll eat 80 ounces or whatever.
I got you.
And so nothing changed until I started working with Jamie with 27 Health and Wellness, and he started writing plans, and he would change it and make tweaks, and we'd do body scans, and I learned about percentage of body fat and how like if the number doesn't change, but that percentage of body fat's changing, like that's a good deal. And so he completely educated me around nutrition and kind of led me to the point where I am today. But like coming back into it, I had to widen that net again.
Yeah.
And so I started the blog. I started an Instagram account, totally separate than like my family, because I figured most people. I was like, I'm going to post a lot.
Yeah.
And I figure most people don't care.
Yeah.
And so if you care, you can come over here and
probably another way to hold
check
you
it
accountable,
out.
though.
Yeah. And so a lot of people did, like, I picked up some sponsorships, like people sponsoring the process and stuff, which was cool. And still have, people that are investing in me for no good reason whatsoever. But
give yourself some credit.
Yeah. But, I've set priorities, and, it's been the biggest help for me. And I think it's the hardest thing to do as well, though.
I wanted to touch back on the priorities for sure, because I think that's where so many people go wrong. Is not in a bad intentional way, but that they either care for other people too much or are just so distracted of things outside of themselves, and they don't work on themselves first, because that really is how you're going to serve other people the best, right? Is showing up as your best yourself, your healthiest self, and everything like that, because that's how you're going to be able to serve them in the best way possible.
Yeah, and I've written about this several times in my blog. Just early on, there was a mom that came to me and was talking about this, and she was like, "Listen, I've started this CrossFit thing. I worked out with her," and she was like, "So many of the other moms in my circle," she was a homeschool mom, and they had a collective that came together, and she was like, "The moms say they don't have time." That they need to prioritize their kids right now because they only have their kids for a certain amount of time. Which is true. You got 18 years, hopefully.
Yeah.
Nowadays you have a lot more, it seems like, but that's a whole nother issue. But like she was like, can you just write something about like how in the world you do that, because I know how busy of a life you have. Like my life is not any less busy than anybody else. It's sporadic and crazy.
Right.
Like I just came straight from the hospital. I didn't know I was going to the hospital earlier today, and like I was there. And so I was like, sure. And so I ended up kind of just thinking about what in the world is going through their minds. So I started asking some moms. I was like, so, because I still had girls that danced, and so I would be at the dance studio and I'd be the only dude there. Yeah. And so I'd ask some of the moms like how they set their priorities, like do they invest in themselves? And they're like, nah, it's just, I got too much to do, I got too much going on, and I don't have time. And so I started writing about how here's what we're doing, especially if you're a parent. And I'm not letting people off that aren't parents, but as a parent, that's the frame in the pool that I swim in. The fact that like my kids are watching me. And so what I set as a priority is something they're learning to set as a priority for themselves. Yeah. And so if my only priority is them, then how am I teaching them anything for life?
Wow. Yeah.
And so if they see me, that I come in sweaty every single morning from working out, and I can be there and present and available to them instead of rolling out of bed, barely making it through the day, because I've done everything for them and everything for other people, and I'm dead inside and outside, then what am I teaching them to do when they grow up? Yeah,
you got to set the precedent, be the role model to show them that it is important to take care of yourself, and set your priorities straight.
Yeah. And so from a healthy perspective, from me eating right, feeling good about my body because I'm eating well, my body likes it, I feel good about it, I have more energy, I feel great, and then I get to stress my body, which then creates this thing that I never thought was possible within me. Like this morning I was working out, we were doing rope climbs, and it was like we rope climbed for like fun, and then we rope climbed for like the workout portion. Tons of rope climbs. Like that was impossible a little over a year ago.
Right. So where I want to go now is I want to ask you is if you're talking to somebody who was in the same spot that you were in 2009, super down on themselves, overweight, what would your conversation be like to them?
I always want to know why they're doing it. Like what's your why? Because if your why sucks, then you're not going to make it.
Okay.
And to me, your why is not because you have kids. It's not because you have a wife that you have to take care of. It's not because anything external whatsoever. Like if your why is external, then you're not going to have longevity in it.
Gotcha.
However, if their why is, because I want to be the best me that I can be, or I want to be able to get up if I fall down when I'm old, or I want, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If it's something about them personally that they have ownership over, that they want to change, that they want to see different, like I want to drop 20 pounds so that I can breathe better,
right?
Or like stop taking diabetes medication,
right.
Whatever. Then game on. Let's go do that, and then we set priorities. Like, what's your priority? And then we set a plan. Like, priorities and plan are always my big deals. I'm like, what are your priorities? And then from that, if your priority is I want to eat right and I want to work out every day, I want to make sure that happens. Work, you're going to show up for. Right. Like, it's important to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
You don't have to set work priorities right now. Like, those take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And so then you look at your plan and you go, okay, if work is from 9 to 5,
yeah,
and it takes me 30 minutes to get to work, and I need to work out before I go to work because the afternoon I got other things to do or whatever, then we set the time. What time's wake up? Okay, wake up's this time, and then we got to go work out, and then we got to get back in and shower. We got to eat well. If we're eating breakfast, depending on your plan, whatever if you're intermittent fasting or something, that's a whole new deal. Mm-hmm. But whatever it is, what's the time look like in the morning? Set that. Make it a plan. Does your plan include the externals that you need to include, like your wife and kids? Is that going to be a part of it?
Yeah.
And then you go to the end of the day, and you go, well, what time does that mean you need to go to bed?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
very concrete.
Yeah.
So it makes it so you really don't even have that many decisions to make in your day,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. You set yourself up for success because you have a great plan. You work the plan. Mm-hmm. Period.
Gotcha.
And so that's where the alarms for the phone, for the food came up. Yeah. That's where, I monitor everything. Like, I monitor my sleep, and so I know that I need between 6 and 7 hours. I'm optimal between those two times.
Okay.
Any more than 7, I get drowsy. Any less than 6, I get drowsy. Yeah. So somewhere between 6 and 7 hours. And so I know what time I need to go to bed. If I'm waking up at 4, I need to be in bed by 10. Preferably start moving there at 9:30, but actually in the bed at 10 o'clock. Like, that's where I need to be. And so, that's the plan.
Gotcha.
That means the kids need to be in bed at a certain time. That means that work needs to be done at a certain time.
Gotcha.
And kind of filters through there. And so it puts pressure to make sure you get your stuff done when you need to get it done. Mm-hmm. If you're a procrastinator like I am, that's helpful. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not a procrastinator, it's still helpful. But.
Yeah, you definitely sound like and this is how I am too, a very routine kind of habit type person.
Yeah.
Is there one routine or one habit in particular that is, I absolutely have to do that, or day's going to be tough?
Yeah, my food is my biggest priority.
Is it just the entire day worth of food, or just breakfast or lunch, or
no? I need to know my food plan for the next day. I need to know my plan before I go to bed every night for the day. Period. And I can work in changes in that because my day is in and out and changes at the whim, at any whim whatsoever. But when I'm on vacation, even I have to know where we're eating, what time we're eating.
Yeah, because you maybe make a bad decision if not.
Yeah, because if I let myself get to the point where I'm hungry, bad things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And I may eat good food,
right.
but it's going to be a lot of it, because I'm hungry and I want to stop feeling hungry.
Yeah.
Right now I'm doing intermittent fasting, which is fantastic, but I have to get in my day's calories within 8 hours.
Right.
And that's completely messed things up because the first 2 hours of the day now, I'm eating. It's almost nonstop.
Yeah.
And then I kind of get back on schedule a little bit, but yeah, I have to plan it out. I have to know exactly when meal times are and what's happening in that meal before, so I don't let myself get hungry.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. So you're a pastor at a church, right?
Yeah.
What has going through this entire journey, going through this process, is not over, but what is going through everything taught you, and how has it served you in a positive way to be a better pastor?
Yeah. It definitely makes me more available for people.
What do you mean?
Well, I think when we're dealing with stuff, when we have our own burdens or when we have our own things that we're wrestling with, whether that's self-image or emotional things like depression and stuff like that, guys are just as bad about self-image as anybody else, and we just don't like to talk about it. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I started my blog, that's the whole reason I started it, because people weren't talking about their emotions. Like men, I could find tons of women who are willing to talk about their emotions and they're dealing with food, but men were like virtually silent online. And so I started that for that reason. But for me, if I have my plan made, I know what I'm doing, I know the things I need to do to operate at my best. If I'm executing those well, then I can be fully present to anything else that happens.
So how does everything you learn come across in your preaching as a pastor? Like when you're talking to people, how have the lessons that you've learned vocalized into your communication with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my context, it's more of my honesty that's helped more than anything. That I'm willing to put myself out there and say, these are my struggles. This is what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. It's not easy. I get short with people. I struggle with this, and I think it helps people relate to me and go, oh, like that dude's a real person.
Yeah.
And like he's got problems, as opposed to like so many times people up on that platform preaching or whatever every Sunday, and people are like, oh, that person's perfect. They don't have the problems that we have. And I'm like, nah, man, my marriage, we fight. Like kids, I screamed at one last night before she went to bed. Felt terrible about it. Woke up even going, man, I wish I didn't act like that, But like because I put myself out there, because I'm honest and realistic about things, I'm not just keeping it in and going, oh, this is my struggle. You don't need to worry about that. I'm not burdening people, but I'm just making people aware that like my life is normal just like everybody else, and that's made a big deal.
Gotcha.
But the mental clarity that I'm allowed to have because of health and wellness, and my ability to listen better, my attention, my ability to get my work done quicker, is exponentially different.
Wow.
Because of it. Yeah.
And it's really good that you can kind of pick that out and see the difference, and I feel like that's also kind of a self-motivating factor in order to stay healthy. But one thing that I saw that I read on your blog maybe about a month ago was, and you said that you were kind of going on a rant about judgment. And I think a lot of people talk about judgment in the negative sense, but you talked about it in a positive light, right? Yeah. And I don't want it to. And I was agreeing with you for when you were talking. Well, I was going to say for the most part, but I fully agreed with you. But it can come across as a little bit straightforward or in your face to somebody who didn't actually maybe like think about it a lot. So I want you to kind of talk about your rant on judgment and kind of how that plays a part in your life and how you feel people should judge each other.
Well, I've always been judged because of how I looked. Like I played sports growing up, and I was always big, always a big kid. Like I even played soccer, and one of the earliest memories that I have of walking, and it wasn't there. This is like I was playing on a select team as a freshman in high school and walking onto a field, and the other coach was coming off the field, and he goes, "Oh, is your plan to take up the goal?" Because I was a goalie, and I still remember that today. That? Yeah, and like an adult, like.
Wow.
And it killed me. Like it still hurts today to even think about it, because that they judge me as someone who is incapable, or my only contribution to the world is taking up space, which for a big guy, that is all we're concerned about.
Yeah.
Like we're concerned about taking up people's space, that we're invading people's space, and we don't want to be in, because our space is always being like taken over other spaces. Like you sit in an airplane and like you're taking up like all the space, like and you're
trying to be as self-conscious about that as possible.
Yeah, which is one of the most liberating things when you like get on an airplane and like fit and like everything's great.
Yeah,
like that's a whole new win.
That's cool.
But yeah, like. I think you're talking about the one I wrote when I was at Mayhem. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I go on rants. I have a lot of people that go to like the Judgment Free Zone, the whatever that workout place is called, Planet Fitness or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I got you. So where do you think it plays a good role in life? Yeah.
So the judgment side of things is like the big thing with the Globo gyms is like we don't judge you, and in CrossFit we never say we don't judge you, which in reality the judgment we're talking about actually is reversed. I think the places that say no judgment are some of the most judgy places.
Yeah.
Because I've gone to work out there and realized like I can't. because the lurk alarm's going to go off, because, you know, I'm doing things because I need to get my body up to a certain place where I feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
At CrossFit, like, people are always judging me, you know, in terms of like do that the right technique, or they've looked at me a year ago and something I'm doing now and going, holy crap, I can't believe you've gotten this far in that little bit of time. And so the judgment in terms of like seeing verdicts in my life, like seeing results that come and they comment on them, which is what judgment is. You know, you're commenting on something you observe. And so what judgment I need is that people that actually care enough to notice, that they care enough to notice. Like, you know, I had a lady that came up to me and said, you know, you're looking really like thin today. Like you like you even tapered anymore. I'm like, well, that's the goal. Like that's what I'm trying to. And she's like, well, I hadn't seen you in a couple months, but like, you know, it's kind of shocking today. And I was like, that's awesome, because she judged me back then that I was bigger than I am now.
Right.
And she comments on that, and to me, I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like, you know.
So they're basically two completely different kinds of judgment. It's coming from a loving side, I want better for you kind of a thing, and holding maybe you accountable to that, versus just saying that you're just here to take up the goal and from a negative.
It's people who actually care enough to judge you. Yeah. You know, and as opposed to, we don't care, but so we're not judging you. In
a constructible kind of a way, not in a put you down kind of a way.
Yeah, which I've never experienced in my fitness genre at all, ever, is a negative judgmental place. Yeah. Even when I travel and drop into different like CrossFit boxes and places, people might make a few assumptions like, how do you need to scale this? Yeah. And generally they're probably right. Like, but then like I'll kill the workout and they'll be like, oh, all right, well, never mind about that. Like, because they have to take on safety parameters. You know, like if someone that doesn't need to be doing pull-ups is suddenly trying to like kip pull-ups because they're in a new environment and they want to show off and like rips their arm off or something, I mean, that's an issue. Yeah. So like, you know, it's just different. But yeah, I want people to kind of. I think that explaining it,
using the word judgment and explaining it in that kind of a way would be very constructive for a lot of people. So I think that was cool. So one of the questions I ask everybody towards the end is, how old are you now?
39.
39, okay. In 10 years, you're going to be 49. People have...
Theoretically.
That's awesome. But, you know, I'm sure you've got goals and visions about what you want to do and how you want to get your message across to other people. So what does 49-year-old Jacob Fasig look like? What have you done? What have you communicated with people and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
For me, my goal is 40, and so I have till the end of January.
Yep.
And so from then, there's very detailed goals. Like, there's not a number on the scale, but there's like movement standards that I want to be able to do. Like, I'd love to do a muscle up or a ring muscle up, and like, so there's movements that I never thought was possible that I want to obtain by 40. Yeah. Like, I want to be in the best shape of my life by 40, and I'm already honestly in the best shape of my life that I've ever been in. Even when I got down to a lighter weight, I'm still not as good shape as I am today. And so I know that 40, I have a hard line of like, this is the expectation I have. I may or may not get it. Yeah. And that may, you know, move over to like 42 or 50 or 49 or whatever. But for me this year, for sure, it's, you know, to help people by sharing my story. You know, not so that I get any fame or any credit for anything, but just the fact that like, I did it, and it was hard, and it took a long time. It wasn't overnight. There wasn't a magic pill. Like, I just grind every single day, and you can do it. Yeah. And my life is no different than anybody else's, and we can, you know, there's hope there. Yeah. And so, like, I hope to, over the next 10 years, get that story out there more. Like, I would love to impact more people's lives in terms of getting them out of the pit of desperation that they think they're in. Yeah. Where they feel like there's no way out, that they have bad joints, or they have, you know, bad knees or whatever. I was like, that's because you don't use them. Right. You know, I have a friend, my best friend. He has type 1 diabetes. Okay. Diabetes. Yeah. And he started doing keto about a month ago, and has only taken insulin once over the last month. Wow. And this guy had like like pump
Oh
on
my
his hip,
gosh,
like
that is super cool.
And it was only because he was on family vacation and he got into like pizza, like all these places, like where you have to, like
Right.
you're in Chicago, you gotta have Chicago pizza,
Yeah.
you know, like there's just certain standards, you know, like hashtag America, and so he had that. He was like, I took, you know, I had to take insulin, but other than that, like I've had zero.
That is awesome.
And so like I'm around people whose chronic disease and stuff are being healed because they're taking care of themselves. And so the more that I can get the message out there and be like, no, you don't have to settle. Like you don't have to stay where you are. And it doesn't matter if you're 60, it doesn't matter if you're 70, like you can change now and live to your 90 or well, like you can make changes now, and it's going to be hard. It's going to suck, but like, I'll walk with you.
Yeah. You hear that, people? Now is the time. Go do it. Gotcha. Well, before I ask the last question, I want to acknowledge you for a second for being able to not only just pick out your priorities, but actually take action on them. Because as I kind of noted earlier, I think that a lot of people can pick out what their priorities maybe should be, but actually devising an action plan like you stressed, and being able to go out and perform it and do it over and over and over again. Like we already talked about it wasn't always just this smooth sailing journey. It's been a long time, but being able to be persistent and consistent with that is something that I think is awesome and not a lot of people can do, and I wanted to make sure I'd note you for that for sure. But I want to make sure people can follow you online, tell them where you hang out on social media, your website, and everything like that.
All the fitness stuff is fitby40.blog.
Okay.
And that's like Facebook, Jacob Fasig. There's two different ones. One of them is my public page, which is just the fitness stuff. Once again, I have two different lives. You can follow either. It doesn't matter. There's not one that's hidden. It's just I just assume people don't care about all the fitness stuff since I post every single day.
Right.
And then fitby40.blog is my web address, my blog, and
cool. Awesome. We'll go on and follow him, guys. It's awesome, super inspirational. But the last question I always end with everybody is, I have kind of voiced my feeling, what is my purpose? That to help people become the best version of yourself. And I told you I don't like cliches, but I feel like there's a purpose in that statement, because we're all trying to get better each and every day. It's a long journey. I don't know if we ever even get to that best version of ourselves, but we're always striving towards it, at least. But what I want to ask for you personally is if you could do or work on 3 things to help become closer to that best version of yourself. What are 3 things that you could do or that you could work on to be that best Jacob Fasig?
Yeah, I mean, I know for sure of one immediately.
Okay.
And my biggest one is self-motivation, like to do things on my own. I struggle so much doing stuff on my own. Like I have this great home gym. Great. I've worked for years on it, still adding pieces to it. I'll use it sporadically. But like there's things I need to be working on now so I can get my goals in the next couple months that self-motivation is tough. Like I've got the food on lock. I've got that down. Self-motivated, everything. Like I even log it and do it, everything. But yeah, it just, and so, for me, that's why I make up for that with all surrounding me with people.
Right.
So yeah, that's the
big number one.
2 would be to continue to dial in my food and always try new things every once in a while. Okay. Since I'm a routine person, I will do the same plan like nonstop. But we all know if you do the same plan all the time, you're going to plateau at some point, and you got to shake it up every now and then. And so that's why I'm doing the intermittent fasting right now, just to kind of shake things up. But it's forcing me out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, there you go.
And so any kind of thing that kind of wrecks my routine a little bit is helpful to me to be better at what I'm doing. And the third thing would be to consistently get out there with my story a little bit more. I've been slacking on that with updating things, and I let outside things limit me.
Okay. Because you didn't maybe place it as the right priority?
No, it's more like I don't want to say things that offend people because I've gotten so far out there.
Yeah.
And there's people in different workout genres. There's people in different things. Obviously, I think my avenue is the best for me. And so I don't want it to come across as in like this is the end all be all for everybody.
Right.
And it's easy for that to happen because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. But
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and so for me, I just want to be secure enough to just continue to put me out there without restriction.
I would definitely want to try to challenge you on coming through with being more, getting out there more, because I do feel like so many people would hear the story, and probably like they already have, would hear the story, see your transformation, and not just the body, but everything, the priorities and everything like that. And I think so many people would take so much clarity in realizing that it is possible and that there is a way to make it happen. It's just actually about sitting down, making that plan, and making it happen.
Yeah.
So I will definitely want to challenge you in trying to be out there and doing that. But that's awesome, man. That's all we got. I appreciate you coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely.